What's going on, people? Welcome to United View. Wow, a lot of news coming out. Just going to get straight into it. No kind of gimmicky intros, and there is a lot to get into this afternoon.
A lot.
A lot. Stuff that really I thought it was just going to be a quiet Wednesday. End of international break. Ollie's back in training. Thought we might get a few updates on some players, etc., as we go towards the press conference. But it's way more than that. We've got some stuff from Samuel Luckhurst on the Manchester Evening News, some really interesting tweets put out by them and Samuel Luckhurst. We'll talk about that. Mino Raiola, right on cue. Of course, there can't be loads going on. Mino Raiola doesn't come to the party with the Pogba situation. Discontent at Man United. Reports that Man United have now decided that the managerial change is needed. They're just trying to sort it out, which you might say is not news, but we need to talk about it because there was some interesting, it's come from an interesting source, a really, really interesting source in the Manchester Evening News. Dean Henderson supposedly wants to leave permanently. Sky Sports reporting that. There is a lot. Ed Woodward coming out with a brief statement as well. My God, a lot. But let's start with this, Owen. Let's start with Samuel Luckhurst's tweets and quote. And if you haven't read the article, don't just look at the tweet that he puts out and what he's saying.
It's well worth a read.
It's well worth a read because, I think what's important to say here is that how many times do I say it? The domestic journalists who are close to the club, who are in the press conferences, have a different relationship, a really different relationship with the club than, say, the foreign journalists and people who are far away from the club. They never normally come out with kind of straight up BS and lies and hysteria because they know on a Friday afternoon, they've got to walk in there after the games. They've got to walk in there, be around United media team. And the chances are, if you rub them up the wrong way, you're probably not going to get let back in. Yes, some people, it's probably contractually, they have to be there. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm not a proper trained journalist, as sometimes people remind me. I'm not. But from my understanding is that they've always had a good working relationship alongside the club. And what you don't normally get is the domestic journalists kind of really going in on stuff. And I think I've noticed a change in kind of the tone of some of MEN's reporting. Samuel Luckhurst obviously is the main guy there. And I've seen like a change in his tone over a little while now. And it's almost like, it's just boiled over. But we'll get into the more personal things that he said. But in terms of the generic stuff that he was saying, let's get the quotes here. He says that Manchester United, here you go. Man United, a senior source at Man United has indicated Solskjaer could remain manager until the end of the season amid a lack of readily available replacement, which, okay, we know that Solskjaer to the end of the season, which is news. But here's the interesting bit. Man United have privately decided a change of manager will be required following the morale-crushing defeats to Liverpool and Man City. And then another interesting bit, he says, is that Man United have started their succession planning to replace Solskjaer as manager, with Brendan Rodgers their preferred candidate. He also says that Man United figures are impressed by Erik ten Hag and Luis Enrique, but Rodgers has been provisionally identified as the most suitable successor to Solskjaer. And also says, he also goes on to say, a senior source has indicated Solskjaer could remain manager until the end of the season, which, again, I've just touched on. So basically, he's saying they've admitted it. They're
made the
coming
decision.
out and saying, till the end of the season, they're just trying to work out the best way to do this. What's your thoughts on that? This isn't about whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Zidane, we've done all that. Essentially, we want to, as a channel, we want to start talking about the games because we know Ollie's not really going anywhere. But then it's like, then you get this. So you have to talk about this. So it's not really about the individual of who's going to be manager, who isn't, but the fact that they're now saying they have agreed that actually this isn't working. We are now actually actively devising a plan from that type of source. That's big news.
It is big news. When I saw that, I was taken a bit aback because when we've heard the stuff in recent weeks about, Zidane, or heard the stuff about Rodgers or whoever it may be, every single time you go, I don't know about the source on that one, or I'm not sure if I really buy into that. There's a lot of hysteria around the club right now, all that kind of stuff. But once you do hear it from like the Manchester Evening News, you do sort of, you go, oh, okay, that's definitely something to look at there. On top of that, I think it speaks more to how this club works, in the sense that they've accepted that the manager, the person in charge right now, isn't necessarily good enough, but they're still going to let him be in there to the end of the season, which to me, we talk about being reckless all the time here on the channel, don't we? But to me, that seems incredibly reckless. Does it not? Of being like, yeah, we know this guy probably isn't good enough, but we're still going to let him have the keys to the car for the rest of the year. And you're like, well, does that seem the right thing to do? On top of that, I think it goes to show that, like we were saying before, when it comes to like maybe like the Brendan Rodgers thing, you know, when we said like there feels like there is something there, but you just can't put your finger on it. Like there's a reason he's the bookie's favorite.
Yeah,
there was a reason, right? And now you can see that reason, because obviously that decision has been made in the sense that, okay, he's not good enough and we're working on that succession plan. That's a big deal. That is a really, really big deal.
Well, it's a big change from we believe in the process.
Exactly. It explains the silence. It explains the silence, doesn't it? Because if they back the manager, they would have come out and be like, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right man for the job. We believe in him with this vision, all this kind of stuff. I know Edward was doing his whole like quarterly earnings results today, blah, blah, blah. He's going to come out and say, oh, you know, we've got faith, but they're not even taking questions. They're not taking questions on that today, because they don't want to get any difficult questions. And they're all difficult questions at the moment. So I mean, it's huge news. I mean, it really is huge news. Again, my kind of initial reaction to it is one, not necessarily shock, because it's not very like it's not like, oh, I'm really surprised Manchester United don't think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good enough for the job anymore. My biggest bit of shock, I guess, is the fact that they've gone, yeah, we know he's not the right guy, but we're working on it. Basically, we're working on getting the guy in.
That open admittance of like, actually, okay, cool. We now see what you guys mean, but we don't have a plan, so we can't just get rid of. Which goes back to when I said when we didn't get Antonio Conte. I think there was a plan there in terms of there was an attainable person there. He wasn't at a club. You could have gone and got him. United just didn't want him. Like that there is mess up number one in terms of, all right, cool. They're saying they want a long-term strategy, and someone like Brendan Rodgers would fit better under what's going on here. Someone like Eric Ten Hag may fit better with what's going on here. That's, we don't want a fiery person who's going to come in and make loads of demands and bark orders and be really regimented in Eric Conte.
Merge them all together.
It's merge them all together. We need a hybrid of all these managers.
Yeah.
In terms of Antonio Conte, Man United did not want him, and probably after the Liverpool one, it was what we got was 3 games to kind of save it in Spurs, Atalanta, and then City. But then the biggest one was after those 3 games. There wasn't enough in them 3 games. Just take the City game out of it. Even if you want to just, because you could have just done it off the City game. Say we would have beat Atalanta and beat Spurs like we did. You could have been dissected like that against City, and still probably would have been like, oh, mate, nah, come on, we're back to reality again. But it wasn't even that plain sailing. The draw against Atalanta was shocking. Spurs were crap, and then obviously you add the City game into that. And even then they went, okay, Antonio Conte's not there.
That's what it's like. But it's that pace. It's that pace. That's the frustrating thing. People go 2-week international break. All right, you can make a decision, spend a few days discussing it, then you get rid of the manager, you look at your options, blah, blah, blah. They have spent 2 weeks sort of, sitting around the table going, is this the right thing? Have a think on it. We'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a think on it. We'll come back.
Delaying.
Yeah.
And now, though, when you hear this, and again, look, there's 2 ways of looking at this before I carry on. The fact that someone so close to what's going on at Old Trafford is saying this, that's what gives it this extra bit of weight, in my opinion.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I'm not here saying the club definitely said this, but for Samuel Luckhurst to completely make up that lie, and with some of the other stuff he's been saying that's happened to him, emails from players' families and things like that, getting blocked by players on social media, things like this. The things he's saying, he'd be a very brave and silly man to just make it up. His position at the club as a journalist to be into the press conferences would probably be under threat, and but so there's got to be a reason why he's coming out with this. So that's what makes me believe this. That's what makes me believe that there's something going on there. We don't have a direct line into the club. We don't have sources and stuff like that. We only go off what's out there. But I do know that Samuel Luckhurst has a direct line into the club, or a representative from the club, and a lot of those journalists do. Whether it be the social media person, whether it be another person higher up, I don't know. But They got a direct line, and the fact that he's talking about this makes it weird. But when he's saying about they've now started the process and are basically saying maybe to the end of the season, effectively what we're saying as well, which is why a lot of people seem to be kind of getting upset about this, and rightly so, and frustrated. We're basically putting our season down the pan so early.
Yeah, we've just given up. We've
That's
just
the thing
given
that
up.
hurts most about this. All right,
Yeah.
there might not be a plan, and you're saying this and you're saying that. So effectively, our season now has to suffer because of your lack of planning and your lack of, being ready to make a change.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what it feels like, isn't it? Of like, that's why I said it feels incredibly reckless. Like, I couldn't see another club doing that, especially, an elite high level club. I just couldn't see them resigning themselves essentially to, we're looking for a new manager now, but then being like, but we're going to continue with what we got for the time being. What? Where is? I said before, that comes back to ambition. Where is the ambition? I can't. Those people that are giving it like, hey, it's very difficult to get Brendan Rodgers from Leicester mid-season. Is it? I mean, really? Show some ambition, pursue him. The Manchester United job doesn't come available all the time.
That's the key there.
He would want to manage Manchester United. He obviously
100%.
wants to manage Manchester United in the fact that, he's like, well, end of the season, blah, blah, blah. But if Manchester United, go after someone, pursue someone, you're our guy, this is who we want, then they will do that. They will do that.
100%.
That's
not even arrogance. And that's with us understanding that we haven't won a title since 2013. We ain't won a Champions League since 2008. We ain't won an FA Cup since 2016. Like we that's us understanding these things. But the fact of the matter is, if Man United are serious and put down the money that we know is there, or say to Brendan Rodgers, well, we won't wait if you don't want to take this job.
Yeah, and what does that say about our club as well? Going, we're willing to sacrifice. I mean, what are we, like a third through the season? We are really willing to sacrifice the rest of our season so we can wait until Brendan Rodgers does a full season at Leicester. How crazy is that? That is madness. That is absolute madness. It doesn't add up. That's crazy.
DJ, big up DJ in the chat. DJ says, questions to my United brethren. Big up, United View. Who are you choosing, Rodgers or Zidane? Both, I believe, can definitely bring some sort of silverware with these players. Who would my final thing be? I think obviously Zidane with the European stuff would probably just shade it, but I do worry about, KG was talking about it last night, his communication with the players. Doesn't speak that good English. There's stuff out there that he doesn't want to come here. And I would be happy with Rodgers. Honestly, I really would. I think he's a great coach, and I would be happy with Eric Ten Hag too.
I think at this point as well, it's kind of like the Zidane thing's almost redundant now. I mean, if this report's to be believed, they've made Manchester United, like I said, the succession plan started. The wheels are in motion.
Yeah, they want Rodgers. Yeah,
they want Brendan Rodgers. They've obviously. Again, if you look at what the stuff's been said in the last couple of weeks and the odds-on favourite, they've wanted Rodgers. People on that board will obviously want Rodgers. Again, I just can't wrap my head around just being like, well, okay, we'll just leave the whole season. We'll just unless fingers crossed Ollie does well. When that's not going to happen. It just seems we'll leave
the season, and maybe Rodgers can turn around Leicester, who haven't started too well, and we'll be fighting with them for top four. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I just like with what's going on. What it does do, if anything, if you can't put because the purpose of this is to we all take in the information and then we all kind of leave with our own informed opinion. That's what happens. You make up your own mind on stuff. But if anything, if you can't decide what bits are true and what bits are false and what bits spin and what bits not spin, I think what we can all agree on is it's a mess. It just shows what a mess it is. And I think that's the most poignant point here. It isn't so much, I reckon, that bit's 100% true. That bit's 100% BS. That bit's a spin. That bit's just a rumor. That bit's never going to happen. Oh, this bit definitely will. I think the fact is, rather than exhaust yourself trying to decipher through what there is and what there isn't, I think you just go, wow, it is a mess right now. And all of these things are not coincidence. But I do think, I know I just said, rather than trying to work out what's spin and what's not, in my opinion, I have drawn the conclusion that this today about, Man United have decided that they want a new man. I don't think that's spin, personally.
No, and I think, like you said,
I don't think that's the club drip feeding it to say.
No, I think I think, like I said, you can look at these things, and it is difficult when you get so far into that, into that United Forest that you have no
Sorry,
idea.
my doorbell's just
going.
gone. Carry on,
No
carry on.
worries.
I've got to take
But
this.
it is a case of, when with Manchester United, whereby you get so far into that forest, you have no idea where the information. I can do all sorts. I can touch all the comments still. It's fine. Where you don't really know what's going on, and it is difficult to decipher what's fact, what's fiction, and all that kind of stuff. But like Flex just said, importantly, you can take a step back from it all, going, man, this is a circus. This is an absolute circus right now. And I get it as well. Manchester United as a club, one of the most popular clubs in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world. If you write Manchester United in your headline, you get people reading your articles or whatever. I understand that. I understand that if you write about United, people read or people watch. But just the sheer volume of just whether it's right, wrong, fact, fiction, of stuff that keeps coming out at the moment, it is a circus. It is a complete circus, of this, the board have decided to get a new manager, but they're going to leave it to the end of the season. Players aren't necessarily responding well to criticism, and maybe they're going, reportedly for journalists, or family members are going after journalists, or Ed Woodward now, the CEO coming out, but he's leaving at the end of the season. But is he going to be leaving at the end of the year? Is he going to be staying on as a consultant? It's just constant. And then all of this transfer stuff, or the players reportedly aren't happy because the manager said he was going to play him this season because he overplayed him last year, but he's not doing this, and the results on top of that aren't good. It's just a big circus. And you look at other clubs, and maybe it's because there's no bigger club than Manchester United, but even at some of these other big clubs, you just don't see that level of a circus, and that has to come back down to the board. It has to. I mean, it has to.
Yeah, it does, and I think with what's been going on, it just adds to the circus. Onto some of the things that Samuel Luckhurst was saying. Again, I don't think it's spin. I think it's he's had enough. I think he's had enough, and he's like, do you know what? I'm getting these messages from players or whatever might be happening in the background. I'm getting emails from so and so, whatever, and you know what? And I've been told this. So actually, let's go and let me just get this all off my chest, because when you actually read his article, he says some crazy stuff. Not crazy stuff, but he says some real damning stuff. He says one of the reasons why this United squad is overloaded with underachievers is many are thin-skinned and fret constantly about social media narrative. One player has blocked this correspondent on Twitter, and another has on Instagram. Another player's representative blocked me on Twitter before the account was deactivated. He then goes on to say, and this is Samuel Luckhurst of the Manchester Evening News. You can check it out yourself, guys. This is quote. The father of a player informed me my coverage of their son had been red flagged by the player's social media team. The player is still contracted to United, but is so peripheral, it seemed inconceivable he could have a team. That's saying that he's such a player on the sidelines. It's like, why would he even have a social media team? Because he's not even one of the main players. That's how I read that. Already this season, the relative of another prominent United player has sent me an abusive email. A follow-up arrived in my inbox an hour later from the same address, claiming they had been hacked. It was a rash transgression. And the aforementioned players are still at United. So both the players he's talking about are still at United. For him to come out and say that, you take it as you want of who you think he's talking about. I'm definitely not going to speculate on that because I don't know. I saw some people saying, oh, it was Harry Maguire. Some people saying it was other people. I don't know. That's not what we're here to do. But what I will say is for a journalist to come out and say, I've been receiving that. And Samuel Luckhurst hasn't, maybe always been everyone's cup of tea. Some people, really like what he does. Other people's not so much. Same like here. Some people like what we do. Some people not so much. But, he's turning a lot of heads because, like I said, I've just noticed a change in his tone, just the way he's been reporting about Man United. He's just been straight to the point, really at it, and calling out a lot of stuff that fans are saying and causing a lot of ripples. But for him to come out and say that's what's been happening to him is like you said, is pretty damning.
It is pretty damning. I mean, just in general, and like you said, I mean, we don't know who these which certain players are he's referring to there. Obviously, it feels like when the way you read it, he's referring to different people in those different scenarios, but we don't know who they are. But just in general, again, I look back on it and looking at like the circus that's surrounding Manchester United. I mean, look, journalists talk to players, right? Journalists talk to players, journalists talk to clubs, journalists talk to family members. Quid pro quo. It's part of the game. It's part of the journalism game. But for him, basically, just to go at Manchester United or go at, and that's the club he's covering for the Manchester Evening News. It speaks to something bigger, doesn't it? It does speak to something bigger that he's just gone. It feels like he's just gone. Oh, I'm just sick of this.
I've had enough of this. Like I'm just out in it.
Yeah, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of
Calling it out.
People, messaging me. I'm tired of family members, messaging. I'm tired of being red flagged or whatever that means. All that kind of stuff. And it just goes back to just this bigger circus that surrounds Manchester United at the moment. And if those allegations, if you will, what he's saying are true, as a Manchester United fan, I'm thinking like, why are you so focused on what like a journalist is writing about you or your playing style? Look, they would, and I get journalists have to do what they have to do. But if you were playing well, if you were being successful on the pitch, I'm pretty sure that they would be writing about you would be significantly different.
Well, especially because the criticism is performance based.
Exactly.
No one's out here saying, this or that player is an idiot. What the hell are they? Who are they? They it's more they're not playing well.
It's Manchester United have a terrible
from
defensive
the
record
professional
this season.
journalists. I get there could be people on social media who overstep the mark and it turns into abuse and harassment, which you never condone. But being able to criticize a performance. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yes, the name of the game. And if it's like, say it is like, talking about, defense, Manchester United have a terrible defensive record this season. If you're just saying those stats and the stats are there to back up your opinion, and that's what it is, opinion. Again, if I was a player, I'd be like, you know what, maybe I should keep my house in order before I start going in on other people. You know what I mean? Maybe I should just focus on the pitch first before I start going in on journalists or family members. And I get it. Criticism hurts. And some people do overstep the boundaries, but I don't, and again, this isn't like the Samuel Lucas defense show or anything like that, but I don't think, like, again, a senior journalist, if you are a well-known journalist, is going to go in and start calling players, overstepping the boundaries by getting personal about them or whatever, or anything like that.
And he hasn't named them as well. He could have named them.
No, exactly. Even then, exactly. So again, I look at that and just go, man, why are these players and PR teams, why are they focusing on that? Focus on the pitch, or the
100%.
club. Why are you focusing on journalism and spin and PR? Focus on what actually matters on the pitch. Focus on making a decision when it comes to the manager. Keep your own house in order first.
Exactly.
Before trying to put out these fires around you. There's a much larger fire. It's called Old Trafford. Figure that out first.
Exactly. Ruben says, we need a daily dose of the Flex and Owen show. I don't know if Owen want to be around me that often. I don't know.
I would just get compared to KG and they'd be like, oh, no, definite downgrade.
No, I think people would like that. I mean, people would like that Flex and Owen show more often. AMLG says, it has truth to it after listening to the CEO of United Media and how they manipulate stories. This bit is the next bit I wanted to talk about because actually Samuel Lucas goes on to talk about it in his article, but he talks about the guy who does all the social media stuff for the player. He's head of media at United, and that's Phil Lynch. And he basically says Phil Lynch has never been mentioned in conversation. Phil Lynch is the head of media at Manchester United and has never introduced himself to the match-going media either. In fact, it's a struggle to recall Lynch's presence anywhere near the press box. In an ill-fated podcast appearance, Lynch outlined his strategy to assist United players and their teams to change the narrative and how they are furnished with fan sentiment graphs. No, you're not reading the private eye clip. The clip was uploaded in November, but went viral after the fallout of the derby. Remember when Gary Neville kind of reposted that and said, this just shows how crap it is, like that the players are being, guided to what to say and stuff like that. And what he's basically saying is that, that goes back to that super chat there, which is good from AMLG. He says it has truth to it after listening to the CEO of United Media and how they manipulate stories. Exactly. When we're seeing certain things happen, and then when the United Twitter account they endorsed Harry Maguire's thing of silencing, I think Paul Pogba, when he came out and shut some lies down, he shut some lies down. But remember we said that wasn't him.
That's him.
They just jumped on it and put the, we're United. We're not gonna, Then Ollie was very, very bullish in that press conference after the Liverpool game. I think we can tolerate stuff about our performance stuff, but we won't tolerate lies. We won't tolerate lies, which is true. You shouldn't tolerate absolute lies. I get that, but it goes back to actually, this is the narrative that's been going on with the players and the people who control the social media accounts and stuff like that. It just shows a really poor thing. And I just think you never get why do we never see when we're playing really well? Why do no players or anyone say flock to their social media accounts, say stop writing all these positive things about me?
Yeah,
stop. Do you know, like we've won a game, just everyone relax. I know I scored a hat trick, but just forget about it. Just, you know, there's no moaning then. But as soon as people have an opinion on, you know, how bad somebody's playing, it's like all of a sudden it's the heat's too much. And I question which players have a certain threshold. Because I'm like, how? Like, you should just be able to take the rough with the smooth. Don't get me wrong. If people are, what constitutes as going over the line? Obviously, abuse, talking about your family, calling you names, talking about everything other than your performance.
It's got nothing to do with football. Once you cross over the line of football, you start to look at appearance.
But if you're talking about
stuff, you know.
If you're talking about, you know, I just don't know what Wan-Bissaka was doing there. When Phil Foden, why did he run out? That's not good enough. If you're talking about Luke Shaw and you're saying, man, he was so good last year, what the hell's happened? How has he gone backwards like this? What's going on? If you're talking about Fred and saying,
he's struggling, he can't pass the ball this season, whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
But at Brazil, look what he's doing. I saw a little highlight thing of him against Argentina the other night. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant he was. You know, so I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Also, as well, for the you know, what is essentially a PR guy there, and you know, PR firms, I find it incredible because I used to work in marketing. You work with PR firms and stuff all the time. That their PR is incredibly tone deaf. Like 9 times out of 10, they don't read the PR firms. They can't read the room, and that's part of the problem as well. These PR people are so out of touch with what fans are feeling at the time that, again, that comes back to, and again, that their focus is just on the message. Let's focus on the message. Let's focus on the image. So after a game, like you say, if they haven't played well and a journalist says they didn't play well or their passing was shambolic in this game or whatever, you can't just like start writing to be like, you need to be careful of what you say about this player and all this kind of stuff. What world are we living in there? What world are we living in? And like I said, these PR people, they can't read the room. As a fan, I don't want after the game to be like, oh, you know, we go again, all this kind of stuff, because we've seen and heard it before. I'd much rather, you know, if it was literally like a clip of whoever it may be, Bruno Fernandes after the game, talking into his phone, being like, I'm really disappointed, blah, blah, blah. Have a bit more of a raw interview with himself after the game rather than talking to the media. That would feel a little bit more of a connection with the fans. And I think that's where it comes back to again, is that, you know, with these players that have these like PR people looking after maybe their accounts and all this kind of stuff, it just feels like there is just this big distance, isn't there, between now, like it used to be like the fans were here, the journalists were here, and the players were a little bit closer, and the journalists were closer to the players. Almost feels like now the journalists are more in line with the fans, and there's this big gap between the players necessarily and the journalists and the fans. And it's a bit like no one is, I don't know if there's like this bubble, or it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. And again, when I hear stuff like this of, you know, family members or certain people's teams red flagging or whatever, my initial reaction would be not to sound like Roy Keane, but like focus on the pitch.
Exactly.
Not necessarily what someone is writing, not necessarily what someone is writing about you. Stop trying to put out fires elsewhere that don't necessarily need to be put out. Because if you fix it on the pitch, those fires will go out. Those fires will go out, you know. Because even if someone could say, oh, they're not having a good season, but if you're winning the league, they'll go, but they won the league this season, so who am I to judge? You know, and that's what fans will say as well. And that's just, I don't know. It just, like I said, they just failure to read the room.
Moving on, because we have got a hell of a lot to get through. That's the initial bit with Samuel Luck, because I think we've covered that. Oliver de Malaya says the engagement is what they're looking for, whether positive or negative. Yeah, maybe it's that. Maybe it's like, well, people are clicking, people are talking about it. We've hit our quota. Maybe it's that. But even that, if that is the driving factor, which you could have a point there, it's like, wow, okay, so we'll happily just peel the fans off just so that they're all commenting underneath, you know, and make the fan base, you know, more angry. It's crazy. And Minali says, what's up, Flex? Big up, keep up the good work. Big up, keep up the good work, man. Love from South Africa, man. All the way from South Africa. Big up to you, man. To see that, a little bit of positivity and love there. Love that. Smash the like on the video as well, guys. We've got nearly 1,200 people watching, and I know if I check right now how much likes we got. Let me do that. Yeah. Where are we at? Oh, that's not it. I need to go to it.
It's where like a KG sort of drum roll sound like.
Yeah, exactly. Let me check because it won't be 1,000. I'll tell you that. It is 200 people. Guys, come on. 500 minimum. Let's go. There you go. David Lee said 190 likes. I just checked. So it was 200 odd. Come on. You lot know. Paul Pogba, Raiola right on cue. We'll do this one really quickly before we move on. It's almost like Raiola's like, I think Raiola's heard his phone go off, yeah, and then it says, you know, oh, there's.
Well, he was on Twitter. He saw United trend and he went, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? There's news about that.
Picked up the bat phone, went, give me a journalist. Boom.
I can't do that. Actually, I can't let all this be going on and not really come to the party. Mino Raiola said, it's too early to speak about Paul Pogba's contract with Man United. Let's see what happens. I can't stop anyone dreaming. And he also says, which was even more funny. Yeah. Where's the next bit? Have you got the other bit?
Yeah. He said, quote, December is the month of dreams, and I can't stop dreams, but it's better not to speak about Paul. If some former Man United players don't speak about me and Paul, they won't work anymore. So he's having a jab at the media, even though he's talking to the media during that period of time. And also, he starts going into, I guess, a Christmas story about December being the months of dreams. I thought he was going to break out into song flex halfway through that. December is the month of dreams. And then suddenly, like, dun, 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 dun. Paul Pogba.
Big up, man, like Mino Raiola, always on time. Ja Rule Ashanti settings, always on time. He just can't. I mean, look, take that what you will. He's basically saying it's Pogba's dream to go to Juventus. December's when it can sort of start happening because in January you can talk to people. But let's not talk about Paul. Let's not, you know what I mean? I'm the whole Pogba thing. Will he go? Will he stay? I've emotionally clocked out of that a long time ago, to be honest. Yeah. In my opinion, I think he's going to leave. And it's probably best for all parties, unless we get a new manager while Paul Pogba's actually still here, and they go, listen, you're going to be my guy. Here's the new formation. Here's Bruno next to Van der Beek. Go play. Go. Unless something miraculous happens, but as it stands, it's probably best. I mean, Paul Pogba's capable of great things, but there's a lot in his game that probably needs to be masked. And right now, we're not in a position to carry anyone. In that, or you have to swap him with Bruno and play him further up and just free him of that defensive kind of thing because it's just not his game. Sam says free Donny. Big up Sam coming through with a big super chat. Appreciate that. Free Donny, exactly. There was reports that Donny might have been, coming back into the fold. McTominay's got over his throat infection, so Scott
miraculous.
Scott will be and Fred's had a masterclass against Argentina. Meanwhile, the Dutch players were flipping, singing and dancing in the changing room with Donny not there.
Chased around Louis van Gaal on like a scooter.
Chased around Louis van Gaal on
the golf buggy.
And his little golf buggy. So big up, Sam. Always a pleasure to see you coming through, man. Big up to you. The Mino Raiola thing to finish off, it's just typical.
Boy who cried wolf principle. You pay attention the first few times, and then after they've done it 500 times, you go, I'm not listening anymore. Either you will sign the new contract Manchester United or you won't. Again, this thing will rumble on. I think maybe it is, getting nearer December, and then January, you can obviously start talking to Juventus in January, as if Mino Raiola hasn't spoken to foreign clubs already, by the way, because, unofficially, that probably has been happening as well. So much can change in football in just a short period of time. Not if you're obviously the board, because they're waiting to the end of the season. They're busy succession planning, Flex, rather than thinking about Paul Pogba. I think it feels like they've washed their hands of it, going like, wow, there's an offer on the table. Whether or not he signs it, who knows? That's what it kind of feels like.
Just leave it. Yeah, no, that is what it is, though. That is what it is. AMLG says United and Barca are basically the same in terms of the states of the clubs. Only difference is Barca has a man who's willing to make changes. Yeah, they're trying, aren't they? They're trying.
We got more money than Barca.
But we've got a lot more money than them.
We have some money.
you might say in terms of the fall from grace, but actually, that's probably not entirely true because Barca only a couple of seasons ago were winning big stuff, or a few seasons ago under Messi, they were still doing their thing.
That feels far more dramatic, doesn't it? Like almost overnight,
it does,
it's
they
like
just got no money, and it's like
yeah.
had to get rid of Messi, and it's like, you know what I mean? Which is worse because we're not even in that sort of situation, and we're still, you know, struggling out
It's
here.
not. It's not as if our fall from grace is because we just lost all this money and players overnight. We just we just got incompetence and at boardroom level, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, it's true. Let's talk about. So we've talked about players not being able to take criticism. We've talked about a little bit Paul Pogba's future and about the process of starting to look for a new manager. There was an interesting thing that's kind of just gone under the radar a little bit about Dean Henderson. Sky Sports put it out, and Sky Sports are very, you know, they're very probably strict about what they do. They don't want to, you know, sever any relationships with clubs. They don't put stuff out until they're absolutely certain with stuff. Sometimes, you know, that's why you might see that they're sometimes a little bit late to the party when all journalists on Twitter and stuff have confirmed stuff, and Sky Sports kind of like, well, let's just make sure to ring someone at the club to just do it properly. You know, it's a different thing when you're a big channel like that because you've got TV rights. You've got, you know, all of the games scheduled in and stuff like that. You've got match day coverage. It's a whole different thing. But they said that Dean Henderson wants to leave Man United on a permanent deal. Thoughts?
Can you hear that? You can always hear Jack crying from here, can't you? I heard that.
Jack's brother.
No, it's not surprising. It's not surprising. When he signed that contract with United, when was it, last year? It was kind of the impression that talk about succession plans. So the succession plan would be that he would be the one to replace De Gea. De Gea was getting, it's kind of even laugh would go, De Gea's getting older, all this kind of stuff. Was he 31? Yeah. he's getting older. And that, you know, he came in at the end of the last season. I don't think blew anyone away. But he obviously still wants to be playing. And I think he realizes that the competition, especially when it comes to the England squad, is actually far more competitive when it comes to the goalkeeping position now. Because you've got Pickford, you've got Ramsdale, you've got still Pope there as well. And I think he realized, look, the World Cup coming up, I need to be playing, whether or not I'm even going to make it, you know, not just playing it. Will I make it even into the squad if I'm just on the bench for Manchester United? And it looks like not anytime soon, Dean Henderson isn't going to be stepping into the Manchester United first side for a prolonged period of time. So it's not surprising that he wants to go. There is this sort of weird, I don't know if you've seen this one, like almost like reluctance in the sense of like, well, I saw someone being like, oh, he might go on loan for 18 months. Did you see that one?
I can't see that.
He might go on loan for 18 months and then he comes back into the United first 11. Look, he's a good goalkeeper, but without David De Gea this season, I'm tired. And we got a terrible defensive record. Imagine how bad it would have been without David De Gea this season. He does 100%. Feel like he's back to his best, even though he does make mistakes. We all do. And David De Gea does have a mistake in his locker.
I think there's two sides to it. Aaron Walker brings up one side. Henderson should leave, have another year on loan. He can be our number one in a couple of seasons. And I think with that, it's like he just doesn't want to wait. I think if Henderson, after having half the season as number one, has had so much of a taste of it, he believes that he's displaced David De Gea and he's better than him and won't wait because he's ready to go to the next stage of his career. Fine. You know,
put it this way: could you ever see Dean Henderson being Manchester United number one?
I could under Ollie. I'll be honest. When Ollie said all the things, well, let's think about this.
But we've said earlier on that Ollie isn't going to be there next season, so maybe he's reading the tea leaves. And being
that's why I'm saying I could under Ollie. At that point, when Ollie was saying it, Dean Henderson will be England number one. You know, he's going to be Man United number one. Then his gradual integration of Henderson, of how he really tried to push it, wait for De Gea to go and have the birth of his child. Then all of a sudden he was number one. You know, it was handled really badly, but it backed up the intent of Man United and Ollie, and they gave him a big, big contract. Didn't let him go on loan last season and kept him from Sheffield United and said, no, you're going to stay here because you're going to compete. And then by the time it got to halfway through the season, he was number one. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I can see him being number one. But you're right. Under a new manager, if Brendan Rodgers came in, I think he would keep De Gea as number one. But I do think this is probably going to be more about Dean Henderson, which in one way you can say, flipping heck, man, that's a bit arrogant. Who do you think you are, thinking you're better than David De Gea straight away and that you should play? But at the same time, you've been a keeper Fair play. Back
Yeah, you back
yourself.
yourself.
That's right. It doesn't mean I think you should be number one. I think David Hayes should still be number one, in my opinion. But if I'm Dean Henderson, I am carrying on like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like I
Yeah, and
think I'm the best and I should keep playing.
goalkeeping, you just need to play. You just need to play, because if you're out of the team, it's not like any other position on the pitch where we're like, well, I might come in a couple of games. If you're
Yeah,
out of
you
the
need
team,
the
you're out for
development.
the season pretty much.
Yeah.
You're out. So you need to find somewhere that you can play, and then you'll be in there for the rest of the season pretty much. So, yeah, I think that doesn't surprise me. I think it's just a case of whether or not it'll be a permanent thing or not. But I can't see in the foreseeable future, and when I say foreseeable future, 2-3 years, I just can't see Dean Henderson nailing down that number one spot, because I don't think David De Gea is going anywhere anytime soon. I really don't.
No,
I think the
big
days
wages,
of him,
big contracts,
I think the days of him looking elsewhere, I think I just can't see that.
At least another couple of years minimum, David
Yeah.
De Gea. And
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
And we're really 3 years if you include this one. But say it gets to the end of this year, I'll say another 2 years.
And goalkeepers, they can
keep
go on for a
going,
long time.
even maybe a little bit longer. You know,
Exactly.
as providing he keeps his performance level around where it is now, I very much doubt the need to go and spend bigger. You know, we've got so much other things to fix, i.e. management, i.e. midfield.
And is he the only guy now, apart from Ronaldo, obviously, but he's one of the last sort of Fergie players in the squad that's actually won a league title. You know, that's invaluable. That is invaluable.
100%.
So
exactly. So I don't think that. But you know, on that, could I see Dean Henderson leaving? Because I think Dean Henderson really backs himself and believes he should be number one. Absolutely. And if that means that he knocks on Ollie's door and says, "Listen, fair enough, I respect your decision. You're clearly not going to make me number one right now," then Dean Henderson, the good young English keeper, will be able to get a big transfer fee for him. You know,
we've got 4 goalkeepers at the club flex as well.
Yeah,
we've got an abundance of goalkeepers. It's when you look at it again, it's a really silly situation. We were saying it last time when Henderson came back, and everyone went, "Well, you're keeping Henderson and De Gea," and everyone went, "Well, that's not going to end well." And then last season it was a bit of a mess. This season it's actually been a bit more straightforward. But even so, it's still a case of like, it still is Dean Henderson on the bench. Like he's better than being a backup goalkeeper. Put it that way. He needs to be playing.
I've just seen Matic trending, and I don't know why. Matic network. Oh, it's like stocks and shares. it's like this cryptocurrency thing. I'll say, what's Matic done? Why is he trending? You know, when you're just not sure. You just think, I don't know about this. To finish off on Dean Henderson before we wrap up, I just feel like I could see him going. I could see him going at the end of the season if he hasn't played. You know, unless he does do a really long loan, 2-year loan or something like that. But it's like, I don't know. I think he probably wants a home. He wants to just get that kind of thing, you know, under his belt. And the last thing, actually, Owen, before we go, the Ed Woodward kind of half statement. You know, if you can grab that, and also Laurie Whitwell has spoke about our net stuff, our net expenditure, and he said Man United's because obviously our financials have been released today. He said Man United's net debt has barely changed in a year. It's currently at 439.7 million compared to 440.6 million at the same stage last year. So the net spend hasn't changed, even though we got in what we wanted. Employee wages for this quarter were 88.5 million pounds, an increase of 16.6 million on last year's quarter due to the investment in the team. So they've bought players in, so obviously the wages have gone up. Profit on transfers for this quarter was 17.4 million, which was a loss of 12.6 million for last year. So that's down. And obviously, what did Ed Woodward say, Owen?
Ed Woodward said, quote, "While these financial results demonstrate our resilience," it's so like financial bullshit talk. "While these financial results demonstrate our resilience through the pandemic, our top priority is success on the pitch. The manager, players, everyone at the club are determined to achieve that objective." Wow. How'd you get into that one? Our top priority is success on the pitch. Do me a favor, Ed. Seriously?
Well, he wants us to win. He wants us to win. You know, they believe in what's going on. They've given us a good squad to win. Have they not given us a good squad to win?
No, I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. But if your top priority was success on the pitch, you would be looking and be like, there isn't success on the pitch at the moment. If that's our top priority, shouldn't we be focusing that, not going, well, this season's a write-off? Like, that's just, and these are what I talk about, you know, and look, Ed Woodward, he's CEO, he's United on the stock exchange. You have to be careful what you say because it drives up and down the share price. I get it. But go back to tone-deaf comments. You can't say our top priority is success on the pitch at the time where it's not going well for you on the pitch. You've been slapped around by your rivals twice this season. And I get it. Everyone at the club's determined to achieve that objective. I'm sure in their minds, they think they are, but it's just a case of those two, the reports earlier on, and this one just doesn't jive. It does again. It's tone deaf. It's tone deaf. Like, do you see what you see on the pitch, Flex, and see that, or from what you hear and read and all this kind of stuff, that the top priority is success on the pitch?
No. I don't. Look, if we would have seen, more stringent action, like proper quickly, then we probably would be able to look at that and say, well, at least they changed the manager quickly. That's, they're making some good decisions. But I don't. I do think obviously the money that's been invested into the squad has been good. Can't, whether it's our money or it's the Glazers, whatever. I'm just saying the money that's been spent whilst Ollie's been the manager has been big. But as you can see, the net there is pretty much the same.
Well, it's like Chelsea last season. They sacked Frank Lampard when they were like fourth, fifth.
That
is our priority is success on the pitch. And guess what? They won the Champions League later on that season because that's their priority. It's always Roman Abramovich's priority. People can slag him off. Fair play, and people can talk about the way that he just goes through managers, all that kind of stuff. But the reason they do it, and I'm not saying that Manchester United should be doing the same thing, but it's the same with all of these other big clubs, is because their priority legitimately is success on the pitch. When did we last see success on the pitch?
Yeah, no.
Europa League, Jose Mourinho. That was it. That was the last time.
Was that 2017?
Yeah.
Honestly. An EFL Cup before that.
Yeah. Success on the pitch, brother.
When did it? Wait, was it EFL Cup after that or before that?
Before.
EFL Cup was 2017. It was before, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was same season.
Same season, yeah. Listen, it's been a crazy day of news to digest, and I dare say by the end of today there shall be more. But we shall see. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Big up to yourself, guys. Smash a like on the video, man. If you haven't done already, let me have a little look. How we doing? Not even at 500. Guys, come on.
Wow.
As we leave here, can we at least get 500 before we leave? That's all I'm asking. 500, and we're going to get off your screens and let you carry on with your day. Do you know what I mean?
Life.
With your whole life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That is the minimum that should happen. We're at 400 and something now. 410, I can see. 435. There you go. It's slowly creeping up. Smash
and be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Road to 100k, Flex.
Exactly, man. We are vastly on that motorway right now, or highway, depending on where you're watching from. And remember as well, get your videos into
yes, I'm excited.
United View TV at gmail.com. Some of you have sent them in already. There's some really good ones. If you want to get involved in like an international kind of fan thing that we're going to be doing, and not even just international, actually, even if you're from here and you want to get involved, wherever, it doesn't matter. I just I've said many times, I want this platform to not just be an echo chamber of my thoughts. Otherwise, like I said, it wouldn't be called United View, and I would have just called it Flex's World or something, and just
World.
Talk. Flex World and talk. Do you know what I mean? It's not just about me. I want this to be as accessible as humanly possible. Whether it's interacting, whether it's calling upon people from abroad, like I've done. And as we grow, these things, the infrastructure will improve to allow us to do those things. And you guys have been really patient in doing that and rocking with us in the comments. And I feel like to give back, that's what this is about. Do you know what I mean? Aziz says, Flex, until United sack Ollie, y'all will not win. Correct, Aziz. I don't know who you support, but I agree. 100% agree with you. So smash a like on the video, subscribe if you lot are new. Me and Owen are out of it. Happy lunchtime. Go and get some lunch or something. Big up yourselves. Peace.